Elvira reads the prince's poetry book on a trip, which makes her dream about meeting the guy of her dreams. The family is relocating to their new home because Rebecca's mother, who is a widow, has found a new love. Elvira and her sister Alma meet their stepfather Otto and their new stepsister Agnes there. Otto and Rebecca got married in a small, private ceremony. Agnes then shows Elvira about the house. Elvira is quite happy about all the wonderful items and the magnificent woodland outdoors, especially since she can see the royal castle in the distance. The family eats the wedding cake for dinner. Suddenly Otto has problems breathing as he starts going through a heart attack. He coughs up blood on Agnes' face and then dies on the table. The next day, Elvira tries to help Agnes feel better by telling her about how she lost her father. However, Agnes screams at her, stating Otto just married Rebecca for the money. Elvira runs to tell her mother, who is currently learning the same information from the lawyers. It turns out Rebecca married Otto for the money also, so they tricked each other when actually none of them had anything. The lawyers say that Rebecca will only get a few pennies and that the land and cattle will be confiscated. After the lawyers leave, Rebecca collapses from the shock. She thinks she's too old to get another man, but Elvira says she'll get married for the family. However, Rebecca thinks Elvira is too unattractive to get a respectable guy and Alma isn't fertile yet, so she can't get married either. A devastated Elvira returns to her room and stares at her face in the mirror for a while before popping a zit. Sometime thereafter a message arrives from the palace. The royal family will be throwing a party shortly and all aristocratic maidens are invited since the prince will choose a bride. Agnes instantly signs up and so does Elvira, but when she fails to supply an important surname, Agnes identifies her as her stepsister. The messenger writes down her name as Elvira von Stepsister, but she gets excited regardless and already dreams about getting wedded to the prince. When Rebecca hears about the event, she goes to a doctor to make Elvira prettier. He wants to remove the braces, repair her nose, and add eyelash extension. Rebecca offers to pay him double after the ball, but Elvira can't stop noticing all the blood on the floor of the surgery room. While Rebecca looks at a catalog of noses, the braces are removed without any complications. However, the nose fix is quite unpleasant because the doctor is using a chisel without any anesthesia and Elvira cries during the whole process. Later, Elvira joins a gaggle of young maidens at a finishing school to study social graces, and she has to wear a brace for her recovering nose. 3 girls will be chosen by the teacher to show off to the prince, but everyone still must make a good impression as the ball will be filled of rich men who may choose them as husbands. The first lesson is dancing and the teacher sends Elvira to the rear of the group with all the unattractive girls while Agnes is summoned to the front. That night during dinner, Elvira is served a very simple soup while everyone else gets to enjoy sumptuous entrees. Agnes wants to prepare a funeral for her father and Rebecca tells her they must wait until Elvira gets a husband at the ball because of the money. A furious Agnes points out they're squandering money on making Elvira lovely while Otto's body is rotting, but Rebecca interrupts her to declare Alma and Elvira will have any dress of Agnes that she doesn't wear anymore. This leads Agnes to leave the room. When she checks on her father, bugs are eating his flesh and she cries. The next day lessons continue with other themes like the correct use of the fan, balancing books on their heads while going up and down the stairs, and how to courtesy. At the conclusion of the day, the teacher hangs the list of chosen students that will pass to the next level and Elvira is astonished to see that another girl was crossed out to include her. This provokes more dreams of her marrying the prince. The following day the chosen group starts new classes, which begin with more dance. The teacher calls Elvira to show first only to quickly interrupt her and term her wasted talent. It turns out Rebecca paid the teacher to make Elvira pass, otherwise she wouldn't have been chosen. After embarrassing Elvira in front of everyone, the teacher demands Agnes and 2 other girls come to the front to illustrate how it's done. In the evening, Elvira tries some of Agan's dresses but they're too tiny for her. Rebecca orders her maids to find a way to make them fit. After they leave, Elvira looks at her bare body in the mirror and tears. Then she gets a cinnamon roll she hid in her dresser and eats it. The next day all the girls have a one-on-one appointment with Madame Sophie, who convinces Agnes that the prince will love her. When it's Elvira's turn, she cries while explaining she feels hopeless that nobody will ever choose her. Sophie replies it's not true and that she sees herself in Elvira. After forcing her take off the nose support, Sophie points out that Elvira is changing the outside to fit the inside and calls her bold. She also presents her a small something to remind her that it's the inside that matters. Later in the woods, Elvira reveals Alma the gift, which turns out to be a tapeworm egg. If she swallows it, she can eat as much as she wants and still lose weight since the worm eats what she eats. Once she gets skinny and attractive, she can just take the antidote. Alma thinks it's a crazy idea, but Elvira dismisses her fears and makes her promise she won't tell anyone. Meanwhile, Agnes meets with stable boy Isaac, whom she's been having a secret connection with. She apologizes to him and claims she loves him, but she has no choice except to marry the prince. In the forest, Elvira swallows the tapeworm egg. Suddenly, a dead bird falls next to her and she hears some shouting. She goes to investigate and sees three drunk men chatting about finding a woman. One of them is relieving himself and Elvira can't stop admiring his naked bottom. When he turns around, their eyes meet and she's shocked to discover this is Prince Julian. The other males make nasty comments and Elvira runs away, only to hide and watch Julian hunt. She cries while she has additional fantasies about being with him. In the evening, Elvira comes home and hears some unusual noises in the barn, so she goes to check. She's appalled to discover Isaac and Agnes getting dirty, so she rushes to tell her mother. In the morning, Rebecca rants at Agnes while damaging objects and calling her insults. She throws her to the floor as she prevents her from seeing Isaac again and destroys her necklace before proclaiming she's now a servant. Then Isaac is booted out of the property without giving him time to change. In her bedroom, Elvira continues to consume hidden pastries. 3 months later, the nose support is finally removed for good. Elvira now has a gorgeous face and a slender physique. She likes peering out the window to watch Agnes work like a slave. Everyone calls her Cinderella now. During the following appointment to the doctor, it's time for the eyelash extensions. Her head is fastened to the chair and a basic cream is applied on her eyes to deal with the agony. A nurse keeps Elvira's eyes open as the doctor sews the eyelashes, but the cream is not enough and Elvira screams in pain during the whole process. That night, Alma wakes up and finds blood on her blankets, revealing she's a woman now. Elvira can't sleep because of the thunderstorm, the pain, and the hunger. She's so needy that she leaves her room to hunt food even though her eyes are bandaged. Alma catches her in the corridor and Elvira says she's going to the bathroom. When she approaches the kitchen, Elvira hears a commotion and fails to hide, but it's just Agnes, who takes pity on her and feeds her. During the next dance lesson, it's revealed that Sophie is secretly dating the teacher. Elvira is finally considered pretty enough to join the females in the front demonstrating the dance. In the evening, Agnes quietly delivers Elvira some food while she's taking a bath. When Elvira gets ready to brush, she's startled to discover she's losing her hair. Moments later, a man comes a lovely gown that Rebecca says had a large cost. While Agnes helps Elvira change, the man creepily grabs Agnes' face and she answers by spitting in his face. The guy insults her and violently kisses her, but Agnes pushes him off and spits on the floor. Rebecca immediately orders her to clean things up. Then the man realizes that Elvira's hair is falling, so he puts a wig on her head and promises she'll make them rich. In the middle of the night, Elvira quietly leaves her bed to obtain more food and hears her mother getting dirty with the guy. Meanwhile, Agnes opens a trunk and gets a dress she hid so she could attend the event in secret. When she attempts to sneak out, Elvira discovers her and tries to steal the dress. They end up fighting and the dress is torn to shreds. They're interrupted by Rebecca, who tells Elvira not to worry because Agnes can't go to the ball without a dress. She puts her daughter to bed and offers her some medicine to help her sleep. Agnes flees to cry to his father's bedroom, which she's filled with flowers to deal with the rotting stink. Nasty maggots are creeping on his entire body, but silkworms are the ones to reach Agnes' clothing to mend it. Suddenly, Agnes wakes up when her dead mother stands before her. The lady says she left new shows in her daughter's pockets and that her coach will transform back into a pumpkin at midnight. The next day, Rebecca helps Elvira get ready with the wig. At the gathering, each girl has an opportunity to present herself to the prince, who seems rather bored. His companions make raunchy comments while a servant reads some information about each bachelorette. When it's Elvira's turn, Sophie tells the other lords how she trained her herself, but Julian still doesn't look impressed. Afterward, it's time for the dance and Elvira is chosen as the primary dancer, which finally gets Julian's attention. Then it's time for the actual ball and many lords are looking forward to asking Elvira to dance, although Julian picks her first. Elvira is thrilled with happiness when Julian tells her she's gorgeous, but the dance is interrupted when Agnes comes wearing a beautiful clothing and a covered face. The prince runs to meet her and dances with her instead, so a sad Elvira huffs out of the room. Suddenly she feels unwell and runs to the changing room to throw up a load of tapeworm eggs. Rebecca immediately comes after her and tells her to stop sobbing because there are more men to select from. When Elvira screams she's dying, Rebecca smacks her and pushes her to go back. Elvira spends the rest of the night night dancing with every man who asks her to, but she can't stop watching at Agnes always dancing with Julian and her mother flirting with more lords. Not to mention the clothing seller is there too. When she starts seeing worms and maggots on the table and people's necks, she understands she's getting dizzy and it's harming her head. Then the clock strikes 12 and Agnes announces she must leave before she runs away. Elvira stares with fury as the prince chases after her. When he comes back, he holds Agnes' shoe in his hand and declares that he'll marry the girl whose foot fits in it. During the trip home, Elvira starts yelling in rage. Near the entryway, she notices the abandoned pumpkin. An enraged Elvira gets a knife and attacks Agnes, asking her to give her the shoe. Agnes dodges the onslaught and defends herself, managing to disarm her stepsister. Elvira tries to choke her instead, and a pursuit begins. Rebecca hears all the shouting and stops Elvira just in time, but she never stops flirting with the man she's brought home. Agnes uses the chance to flee away, dropping the other shoe on her way out. Afterward in her room, Elvira tries to put on the shoe but it doesn't fit. Getting frantic, Elvira grabs the knife and starts making some slashes. Her toes fall at the same time she does and her scream of pain draws Alma's attention. While she wraps her scarf over her sister's leg to halt the bleeding, Rebecca also hears the screams and enters the room. She gives Elvira the sleeping medicine while explaining that she did the wrong foot. A shocked Alma runs out while Rebecca finishes the job, leaving both of Elvira's feet without toes. During the procedure, Elvira dreams of Julian putting the shoe on her foot and choosing her as his bride. The next morning, Elvira wakes up in anguish and falls off her bed while puking blood. She can hear a servant announcing the coming of the prince, so she crawls on the floor to exit her apartment. The stairs are a problem and she ends up tumbling down the steps, bleeding on the floor where she lands. Agnes sees this but ignores her, choosing to go out to meet the prince instead. Julian tries the shoe on Agnes and it fits wonderfully, thus she's chosen as the next royal bride. The couple kisses while Elvira has a breakdown. Afterward, Alma rescues her sister and compels her to swallow the antidote, which pushes the tapeworm to peep out of her mouth. Alma grabs it to start pushing and pulling until the entirety of the very long worm is out of Elvira's body. After killing the worm with a knife, a lamb steals some of her mother's valuables. Rebecca sees her and ignores her to continue being naughty with a man. Then Alma helps Elvira leave the house and get on a horse with her. Now both sisters can run away and leave their tyrannical mother behind. Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Leave a comment about your favorite movie and we will make it next. Thanks for watching.